Oh, hello again, the Betaverse. This is Ryan Erickson. The dulcet tones you hear in the background are from a song that is very, very appropriate to the theme today, a misunderstanding. What could we be talking about today? Must be some kind of misunderstanding. Misunderstanding of who or what? Now we shall go into that with my friend and co-conversationalist, Mr. Niels Pflaeging. Hello, Niels.
Hello, Ryan. It's good to be with you for the 60 what time?
66. I forgot to put the number down there.
66.
66.
When we're 66, losing my hair.
Oh, 66. Oh, when I'm 64. So here we are today with our dearly deceased guest, Douglas McGregor, to talk about his role in the BetaCodex Network, his impact and influence on the field of organizational development, that garbage heap that you have spoken about here recently, which the garbage heap. So Douglas McGregor, the spider in the web of BetaCodex. And in my preparation, reading the book again, reading through it, I also decided, hey, let's see what videos are out there on Douglas McGregor. Okay. And the only videos the vast majority are under 8 minutes. And all they talk about is the theory X and theory Y. That's it. And it is, as we'll kind of get into, not what Douglas necessarily meant when he was talking about theory X, theory Y.
100% of those videos are probably bollocks, right?
I tend to, a couple of them, but I think we're talking about the paradox. We're talking about all that kind of stuff here. So I will now invite you to share what does the spider in the web thing mean? What does Douglas McGregor mean to you? And how would you like to see the space today?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Well, this is difficult, by the way. I'm a bit worried today because when I came here walking to the studio, I thought, what if I say something that's incorrect, factually incorrect about McGregor? Because I'm not specialized in McGregor or something, and especially his Vita is it, or Vita? His biography.
It's curriculum vitae.
His bio, so to speak. It's still I still do not fully understand it. The way the man was and what he did, why, and what he didn't do. It's not entirely all clear to me yet. Yeah, because I think you just mentioned that all the videos just talk about lazy videos about theory X and theory Y, corroborating misunderstandings and myths and untruths. It's tough to nail him down, the guy, right? That's why when I came here, I was a little bit worried, what if I err on some facts about him? But we will risk this, right? Because we do not have to. We want to share a little bit of ongoing research, right?
Well, the pressure is now on you because we are likely going to have the longest video that there is on YouTube related to Douglas McGregor.
That is true, and we will, of course, demystify some of the obvious bollocks, the obvious stupidities around theory X and theory Y, but also we want to go a little bit beyond. What is his role in business administration? Why is he the spider in the web? I think he's the spider in the web of beta and management history in several ways, really. We will get into that, and yes, we will risk a few interpretations, and I will probably share a few colored photos of him that were never before seen in color. Yes, because
it seems to be rather a hobby of yours to do this colorization of prominent figures in the BetaCodex and OD in general.
That's true. I love doing
coming next.
I did it with people like Niels Bohr, for example, a brilliant chemist, a Nobel Prize winner. Do you know him, Niels Bohr?
Oh yeah, for sure.
He also left us some witty quotes and witty quotes, really. Something like, it's hard to make predictions, especially if they are about the future. That's Niels Bohr. I love that one.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of met him 20 years ago, because when I did research for my book about abolishing planning and so on, I found this quote and I thought, who is this brilliant man? Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. What the heck? Why? Yeah. So yes, I love coloring photos. I colored a lot of photos of Marie Curie. Fabulous results and so on. But of course also of our precious, like Deming. I published a whole paper about, last month I published a paper with colored photos of Deming. And I published a few, that only happened a couple of weeks ago. I colored a few Douglas McGregor photos that I found on the MIT archive website. So we will sit through, probably walk through these photos and take a look at the man as he was never seen before.
Yes, indeed.
In our time. Yes.
Yeah. Well, again, the spider in the web. The spider is not often the most upfront of insects or arachnids.
Yes, because I always try to nail down, as a BetaCodex Network founder and you as a BetaCodex Network associate, we always try to figure out what is their place. Where is their place? Deming or Drucker or Levine or Mary Parker Follett, of course, even, or today's people like our interview partners, or Marvin Weisbord. Yes, exactly. What is their role? Whom did they connect with? Why were they able to figure those things out about beta and decentralization, self-organization, contemporary leadership and organizing? And McGregor, I think, is the spider in the web in that sense, that he is a key figure. He is the great connector of the betaverse, so to speak.
Yeah, well, sure. The string theory that is there, and the quantum physics of the betaverse, and I think a lot of these themes, and again, we'll get to the basic McGregor, the paradox of the assumptions of human nature. They are the substrate to what we talk about. This idea of the beliefs about human nature.
Maybe we should talk about that first, right? About theory X and theory.
But I'm going to say that is the theme, again, certainly theory X and theory Y, of many of the writers. Peter Block, of course, our dear friend that we've had here a couple of times, Mary Parker Follett, Deming, Drucker.
We talked about them all in this little podcast of ours, but we never talked properly about McGregor, right? Yeah.
Not explicitly.
The work, the theory, yes, but not about the man, right?
Yeah.
Yes?
So evidenced by the videos that are out there, when you look for Douglas McGregor, you go to theory X and theory Y. And if for those in the audience who may be encountering us from a different place or who've never heard of Douglas McGregor or the theory, would you mind giving the most accurate to date?
That I can do. I'm sure about that stuff.
Articulation of theory X and theory Y.
Let me reach back to 30 years. When I studied business administration, I heard about McGregor, about Maslow and Herzberg, right? The big three of motivational research. They are all misunderstood, but I think McGregor has been canceled in a way.
Really?
Yes.
In what ways?
Everybody talks about Maslow's motivational pyramid, which obviously isn't a pyramid properly. He never advocated that. Then he actually tried to fight the notion of the pyramid and successive satisfaction of the 5 levels of motivation, core motivations. Frederick Herzberg, who was, Maslow, true academic, psychologist, most of his life wasn't much interested in business or management, much different from McGregor, right? And Herzberg. Those two were very focused on business sciences, management sciences, so to speak. Abraham Maslow wasn't. He wrote a great book, or he left us a great book, Maslow on Management, as it is called now. It had a different, tricky title, Now it has this title, Maslow on Management. So he left us articles, or this book, let's say, this collection of articles around management. And Hertzberg did quantitative studies, very boring books, by the way. I bought a few of them. Very boring, but from Hertzberg, we have this notion that there is no such thing as a motivator. There is a, hygiene factors and what are the others? Now I'm stuck.
I can't.
You can only demotivate. That's the conclusion of Hertzberg's studies. You can only demotivate people. You cannot motivate them. Yes, and money is never a motivator. He wrote that brilliantly. His books, very much about his quantitative research. So a little bit boring, I think, but he did a lot of quantitative research. McGregor had a totally different stance at his work. So, by the way, highly recommended the annotated edition of Human Side of Enterprise, where he published all this stuff. I have an older version, which is much slimmer, interestingly. This, I got this from a friend of mine, let's say, François Lavayer, also a BetaCodex aficionado. And at a certain point, he bought like 20 or 30 copies of this edition here and gave me one. So this is an older copy, not very old, but one of the older. The 25th must be from 85, right?
Yeah.
So in this book, McGregor explains this theory is X, theory Y, but it's much more. Problem with Douglas McGregor is nobody has read the book ever. This is an exaggeration, of course. I read the book and nobody else ever read the book. This is a slight exaggeration, but not so much. So all the professors at business schools, or the people talking about McGregor, they have never seen the book or read the book or smelled the book, understood the book. They have no clue what's inside. So they talk lousy stupidities. They perpetuate stupid myths about McGregor, which they've gobbled up from the textbooks. Yes? And those myths, among other things, say that theory X and theory Y are styles, which they are not.
Or they're attributes.
They are not, or that they are attributes, which is also wrong, right? Or that McGregor never researched his theory quantitatively, so it can be, this is obsolete. He never proved it. Totally irrelevant criticism, irrelevant critique, because he didn't have to do quantitative studies. The quantitative studies weren't necessary. I mean, Hertzberg and Maslow did such studies on related fields, and all of that inspired Douglas McGregor. So anybody who doing this this criticism, like, oh, this is old theory, it's not valuable even anymore. I hate it. It's like saying Einstein very long time ago. I wouldn't listen to Einstein.
Well, I think also you mentioned the thinness of the 25th anniversary and the thickness of the annotated version.
Yes,
there's a lot in the annotated version that is relevant, is brought up to date, and it goes into the folks who a Japanese gentleman, I forget, who kind of talked about theory Z in the 80s, about kind of where's theory Y gone. So by the annotated version,
some of the comments and additional articles are terrible and wrong. Even McGregor's annotated edition got shit upon inside, shit inside, so to speak. So I have to warn you: don't believe in all the comments. They are terrible comments. There's one by a woman. I will slap her in the face if I ever meet her, because she didn't understand theory X and theory Y either. So I would not call her out. I would not say her name, but there are terrible comments in this book. Some of them.
Well, there is one interpreter of McGregor that we've talked about before, is Andrea Gabor in The Capitalist Philosophers.
Oh, I wasn't aware. Okay, yes. What does she
has? Yeah, there's the chapter on it was McGregor and oh gosh, I don't know if it was Roethlisberger or whomever it was, but no, Andrea Gabor put that stuff out there again, gave a little bit of the history of how McGregor got from MIT to
I have to read it again.
So again,
by the way, there is a second
episode a while ago. So
there's another book by McGregor,
posthumously, yes,
posthumously published. The Professional Manager. I think some of The Professional Manager is in the annotated edition as well, but I would have to check. I don't want to do it because somebody should do it, because what I would like to do is to do some put together a white paper, but I don't have the time. Somebody else can do it. So this is essential reading, but these are the original books. This is not the original edition, but the Human Side of Enterprise, and the second is The Professional Manager. And you can see from the amount of books published by McGregor, he wasn't a big book writer.
No, he was an educator, right? He was an educator,
and he was a spider in the web. He was a great connector. Yes, which is very interesting. We will see some of the photos showing that as well. Yeah, he was a teacher. He published articles. I think the book here, Human Side of Enterprise, is more or less a collection of articles, if I'm not wrong about that.
His speeches.
So, yeah. So, did you look up original articles by McGregor ever?
I was intending to, but I didn't get that far in my preparation research.
Yes, people should. For anybody watching this, we are not getting paid for this kind of research, so we can only afford so much research. But yeah, what's interesting and important to say is that in his book, Human Side of the Enterprise, 1960, McGregor, let's say, argued that Theory X, Theory Y are images of human nature that we have in our hands and that change our reality as managers, leaders, terrible word, as people interacting with others in work. If we believe that Theory X people exist, it fucks everything up. These are his exact original words in the book. Of course,
that fucked it up is in there.
Yeah, believing that Theory X people exist fucks it all up. Period. Yes.
Yeah.
And because Theory X is just a dirty, evil prejudice about other people at work. Only Theory Y people exist. That's what he repeats over and over and over and over in the book, and also in the follow-up book, right?
Yeah.
This is not a question of style. Everybody who believes that Theory X people exist is an asshole. Again, quoted directly. Almost quoted directly from
in there,
right?
I think it.
In a way, the only thing that McGregor does is he catches us in our mistake of believing in Theory X.
Yeah, he just disabuses us of the belief. Now, I want to go.
He wants to liberate us of that pitiful,
that what are the
misunderstanding or myth.
And I think, what is theory? Theory is a theory. It is a set of assumptions about human nature, and it is not an identifier. It is not that you are a Theory X person. Is that what you believe about human beings? So I would like to read what he defines in the book, chapter 3, for those of you following along. In the what is Theory X? Is that the average human being has an inherent dislike of work and will avoid it if he can, right? Really? Okay, so that's one assumption. The other assumption is because of this human characteristic of dislike of work, most people must be coerced, controlled, directed, threatened with punishment to get them to put forth adequate effort toward the achievement of organizational objectives. Now, item 3 from the book here, the average human being prefers to be directed, wishes to avoid responsibility, has relatively little ambition, wants security above all. So that's number 3. Do we have a fourth here? No, those are the 3 biggies.
You are citing the attributes of Theory X.
This is Theory X. This is the Theory X belief about human beings. Do you, as a manager with a human being with managerial responsibility in an organization, what do you believe about the people over whom you have authority? You believe that they don't like their work, that because they don't like their work, they need to be forced and coerced in order to do good work, and that the people that who are in your stewardship, they want to be led, that they don't want to step forward and take responsibility. That is the set of Theory X beliefs. So that is from the book, from chapter 3 of the book, specifically there. Now, if you like, you want to go into, I can talk about Theory Y and what he says about Theory Y.
I wasn't planning on reading neither Theory X attributes nor Theory Y attributes, because I think everybody should know them, right?
Well, they should, but not everybody who encounters.
So you read out the theory Y attributes as well? Yep.
I will read the theory Y. So it's not going to
Good.
take very long. The assumptions. What are the assumptions about theory Y? One is the expenditure of physical and mental effort in work is as natural as play or rest. Okay, that's number one. Number two is external control and the threat of punishment are not the only means for bringing about effort towards organizational objectives. Man or woman, this is 1960, of course, right? Man will exercise self-direction and self-control in the service of objectives to which he is committed. And there are a few more, so bear with me. 3, commitment to objectives is a function of the rewards associated with their achievement. That might feel a little weird from beta perspective. Number 4, the average human being learns under proper conditions not only to accept, but to seek responsibility. Number 5, the capacity to exercise a relatively high degree of imagination, ingenuity, and creativity in the solution of organizational problems is widely, not narrowly distributed in the population. And the last one, under the conditions of modern industrial life, the intellectual potentialities of the average human being are only partially utilized. Now, I read those not just because you don't know them or I don't know them, but because the videos that I watched of 450,000 views on one of them and 100,000 of the other, they don't talk about those as assumptions and they don't articulate them. So
Yes.
that is the paradox. That's kind of what you're talking about.
I have a famous slide in my keynotes. I have this slide where I show it's quoted exactly the same words that you just said on a slide so that people can identify them. And then I do the slit exercise, which people can watch in a video as well, in my keynote videos. Yes, so theory X, theory Y. And then McGregor goes to, okay, what are these two theories? One is just bogus. One is just a prejudice. And the other one is really based on human psychology, which is theory Y. So only theory Y people exist. The other thing is just some prejudice, which comes from history that we inherit. It's like racism. It's a learned prejudice about other people. No small child in the world is racist. Racism is learned, and so is theory X. The prejudice that other people are somehow lazy.
Well, that goes back to our friend who was a man of his time, Taylor, talking about Schmidt in the pig iron factory, that he was lazy unless he was incentivized by cash or whatever. So
yes, much about the danger of case studies. Yes, which we talked about in another episode. Yes.
So we've got theory X and theory Y out of the way. They are assumptions about human nature that folks widely say you're a theory X person. No, you need to be a theory Y person. I'm better than you because I'm theory Y. You're theory X. And much of what I see, theory X managers. I've seen that many times in the common parlance about McGregor and what is theory X and theory Y. So I think we're good with that.
Over and over that theory X or theory X and theory Y are related to something of like management styles, or that different people should be treated differently within those categories and other stupid stuff. So this is just really nonsense. Yeah, it's dangerous nonsense. Yeah. Even Mr. Pink, Dan Pink, continues this bullshit. Maintaining that sometimes command control works. No, it doesn't.
Well, we can. There's probably a few episodes we've talked about that in terms of what is it? Why is there a hierarchy? What is the value of compliance? And what is the purpose of a formal hierarchy to enforce compliance? And when is that appropriate and when it is not?
Yes.
But that's not necessarily about a belief in a held belief in human nature. That's about.
Thing is, 1960, McGregor said all this about theory X, theory Y, and why theory X was bogus. And Where are we now?
We're 65 years later, and
Exactly.
has the education of erstwhile managers, has it really changed that much?
No, and no,
No, it's not.
I would go even further and say nothing has changed, and business schools still teach the same nonsense. And there is an additional thing. This leads us to one of the biggest misunderstandings, I think, or some of the reactions. I think this book has probably been the most impactful business book. You know, my hypothesis for now is that when this book was published in 1960, management sciences split or sealed themselves off towards psychology, sociology, and such. In a way, this is one of my arguments. The generation of Hertzberg, Maslow, McGregor, they were the last sociologists in the business studies, field of business sciences and business studies. McGregor was, one might say, the last philosopher of the business sciences and the last sociologist. Never again would business sciences allow somebody like McGregor to emerge. Today, people like McGregor, they are in a field that's very narrow and it has a stupid title, critical management studies.
Well, like our friend Todd Bridgman, right?
Precisely. So people like Todd Bridgman, whom we talked about in one of our episodes, brilliant man, brilliant research that he publishes, lots of debunking of myths. He is like, in my mind at least, this is not objective truth. You know, this is how I look at these things today. He's one of the heirs of Douglas McGregor. You know, taking this critical approach. What are we doing? Why are we treating people like shit in the workplace? Why are we perpetuating command and control, which, by the way, is one of the things that McGregor talks about. Why are we perpetuating command and control? 1960. This should be over by now. You know, it doesn't match a democratic society. Still, we are perpetuating it because we think that people are ex-people. Fatal flaw. Now, 65 years later, nothing changes. It changes. You know, nothing has changed. And business schools now teach that McGregor was somehow wrong. He didn't have a clue. He didn't do the research. He was just a quack. No. He was the last informed, psychologically informed sociologist in the only lucid, one of the few lucid people in management science.
And people need to be motivated. People need to be forced. People want to be led, and that again, that whole underlying set of assumptions about, and they are amplified typically among the business schools in America here, and the folks who speak
not just in America. Don't make it smaller.
I only know the America. I can only speak for what I know and who I've encountered.
No, we can read the literature. We can do the research about what's published everywhere. What we could easily look up. Books that are used for teaching in different countries, and we would find the same bollocks over and over.
And I think in what you're saying about Bridgman, I think we could also say it about Ron Purser, who we've had here, and my friend Dave Fearon, and Peter Vale as well, in that domain, that they're viewed as fringe characters.
Yes,
they're the fringe. They don't.
By the way, with Peter Block, we had this conversation that we are kind of fringe people in his mind. He and us,
we're radicals. We are radicals.
I think he used the term fringe. Didn't he call us French people?
Maybe he enjoyed our radical uniqueness. I think that was part of it. But
it shouldn't be. It should be mainstream. The problem is the mainstream is fascist. Fake, not even fake news, fake old shit about psychology, sociology, and human behavior, and that's why command and control is still taught at business schools. In spite of the Demings, of course, Deming is a fringe character too. I mean, what business school teaches Deming? Or a lot of Toyota? Very little. It's very fringe, very on the margins of what's being taught and
this is. And I bring the A word in, the agile word in too, because Deming is often brought in as this fantastic figure that he's made so much of a contribution to agile software development is the PDCA. You know, that is the Deming cycle, and that is the primary value of Deming, and that the folks who do software development lean on that as the contribution, not the driving out the fear, not the 96% of crap that is caused by management, not the 4% of value of the managers and management. So even those who know who Deming is, those people who know who Deming is, tend to misuse that, as we have seen with McGregor. So
yes.
So why
reigns and ignorance reigns. People should read the book. I wrote an article about this. Can you maybe show it? You know, I republished this article recently.
I need you to share your screen so I can. So I have Genesis playing in the background. Unless we want to do that again. Can you share your screen without getting out of the?
You want me to share the screen of the thing? You showed me that you had it.
You mean the article? Oh, the paradox article. Yeah, I got that.
So I wrote this.
I thought you were talking about the photos. So
no. So this is a little article I wrote after a student approached me, telling me how stupid I was of misinterpreting McGregor. That I was the only one misinterpreting McGregor and saying that Theory X people didn't exist. Everybody else, including her professor, she said, was adamant that Theory X people existed, and I was the only stupido not to understand that. So I told her to read the book. She did it, and she apologized afterwards. And we had a lovely conversation about McGregor and about the stupidity that is being taught at business schools. So read this article. The most momentous misconception in the history of work and organization prevails. It's the misconception about Theory X and Theory Y, saying that Theory X people somehow exist. Yes, they must exist because I believe in them. That's the logic, you know. And McGregor wanted to drive this out. He didn't manage to do it. Yes, and we didn't manage to do it so far. Still, we should. We will drive that evil. At least, you know, go to Star Trek universe, and you will see that Theory X cannot exist. I mean, they never talk about Theory X people in Star Trek, right? So it must be focused.
Gene Roddenberry had a very Theory Y belief about human nature and the progression of human nature.
Totally, he understood democracy, he understood human nature. Yes, of course, yeah. Like most other science fiction authors, you know, take Isaac Asimov and so on. So Douglas McGregor, grossly misunderstood, grossly misinterpreted, cancelled, and quacked about, you know, badmouthed.
Quacked about. I had not heard of quacked as a verb.
No, I invented that just now. So, and what's interesting in his writings, I would say that I must admit that I've never fully read this book. I'm not sure why. It was hard to get by, you know, but I think I would say the whole of the BetaCodex is pretty much inside already. I dare to say that McGregor had a pretty thorough understanding of the BetaCodex already, you know. Yeah, and let's talk about the man a little bit. Interesting character, this Douglas McGregor, right? He passed away in 1966, I think.
Yeah, very young.
Yeah, relatively young. I mean, in his 50s or something.
Yeah, 57, I think he was.
Yeah. So relatively early. But he had a very thorough understanding of beta, of the whole consequences for organizations. And he talks about in Human Side of the Enterprise. What are the consequences of believing that people need not be motivated and led as people, you know, that they are capable of self-orientation,
self-control.
Yes, self-control.
And that's the social density we talk about. That is what. So it's that we are commanding ourselves together. We are being.
So one of the marvels for me is, how did he know? How was he so sure? And one of the reasons is that he was kind of the spider in the web. So he learned from the best. He connected with the best. He brought Kurt Lewin to MIT, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yep.
So he was directly connected with Kurt Lewin. Yes, who was a generation older, of course, than he was. But he brought him, you know, to this renowned university, because Lewin, when he left Germany. He first went to some university in Idaho or Ohio or some other strange place, and McGregor brought him to MIT. But McGregor also connected with brilliant sociologists at MIT. Some of them, he had brilliant students like Warren Bennis, and he connected to peers as well, like Abraham Maslow. Yeah, so he admired Abraham Maslow. Then Abraham Maslow admired his work. They had wonderful letter exchanges and so on. McGregor connected with Eric Triss and the whole socio-technical systems movement. So he was related to the Tavistock Institute and their socio-technical systems research. He really was a great connector. I'm not 100% sure, but he might have been connected to Edwards Deming as well, but we cannot prove that. But it's something that I thought might be possible. He was also aware of Mary Parker Follett. I read that somewhere. I cannot cite the source right now, but and she doesn't appear in his book. Sadly, yes, she doesn't appear in his book, but in conversations, who wrote that? Maybe in Productive Workplaces, this is mentioned.
Well, that's there's a huge bit on McGregor in Productive Workplaces.
Yes, Marvin Weisberg probably unearthed that.
So Warren Bennis, of course, which we have not really talked a lot about.
Yeah, Warren Bennis also edited the book here, The Professional Manager, after McGregor's death. Bennis concluded the book, which is interesting. So in a way, Douglas McGregor connected to the elder, like Kurt Lewin, to people in his generation. Eric Trist, maybe must have been a little bit older.
Eric Trist is in here too.
Sure. Yes, he connected with other people in the field of psychology, like Abraham Maslow and so on, the peers, and he connected to younger people who then became rising stars in the movement, like Warren Bennis. So really fascinating person. Really, that's why I call him the spider, or it's one of the reasons why I call him the spider in the web of the BetaCodex, because he actually connected to all those people and understood and interpreted. He also is a spider in the web of Beta, I think, because he was a consultant. In this book, he brings up a few case studies, cases he investigated. Also, socio-technical systems. Eric Trist's case with the British coal mine comes up, and other cases that he worked with. So he really, why was he so self-assured? That's the main question. Why was he so self-assured about his work? And I think it's because he consulted, with companies. Yeah.
And again, there's. I was again just looking for another example here in the Productive Workplaces book. At the Dewey and Almy Chemical Company. This is right after World War II. I mean, this was before he went to MIT, before he went to Antioch College here, not too far from me in Cincinnati, in Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Oh, and he was a dean at Antioch. So he was a manager at Antioch, yes.
He was a man. And then again, he brought more of that next generation of OD talent and his style of a participative learning with them. Yes. And I think that had carried on to the other fringe characters that we tend to gravitate toward. Again, Peter Vale being one of them. And Peter Vale actually, I think, wrote one of the blurbs on Weisbord's book. And so, I mean, all of these connections and all of these, the spidering in the web. So you have some pictures that you wanted to share that have some evidence of this webbery that Mr. McGregor had done.
Now, people shouldn't expect too much of this. I'm just, trying to share a little bit of the imagery.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Do you see this now? Do you see the black and white photo in a good way?
Yeah, I'm trying. I gotta get mine out of here.
No, I mean, do people?
There we go.
Do people see it? Yes.
They do now.
Okay. So this is, you see these three people in a room, right? In the middle, in the center, you see McGregor, and he's in a room at MIT teaching executives. This photo is, I cannot look it up now, from 58 or 59, so before The Human Side of Enterprise was published. And this is one of the other photos that I colored. Different session, also executives, obviously, because they are not young students, right? So we see McGregor teaching here, discussing mainly. It's also possible to see him smoking all the time. Apparently McGregor was a chain smoker. Do you see the colored photo still?
I do not. I see the black and white photo currently.
What? Okay.
It's down there at the bottom.
Okay. Okay. What is happening?
That one.
What do you see? Oh, no, I have to check. Okay. Now I see what you see. Okay, let me try again. Sorry. These technical things. Now we see it again.
There's the black and white.
Yes, now it's better. Okay. Okay, now, okay, sorry for this. Okay, so now we move on. Now you see a color photo?
Yes. Now, who's that character there? Do we know?
Not sure. An executive. What I love about this photo is, let's just do lazy comments about these photos, what we see, right? So this is, again, one of these McGregor teaching sessions. I love, that's why I cut it this way. Both are smoking. Yeah?
The casual nature.
Huh?
Yeah, I got the cigarettes there.
Yeah, of course. Smoking was very important in teaching. Here we see Douglas McGregor receiving an award, I think. I do not know which award it is. I colored these photos, right? But I couldn't see what award it is. Let's move on to the next photo. I can't. Why can't I? Okay, let's do it again. It's difficult, right? To share.
Yeah, that's okay. We've got that here. The other thing, again, looking through the Weisbord book again, he was a systems thinker. That he also had a belief in the systems view as opposed to the more prescriptive, problem-oriented view. There's that.
Yes. McGregor, surely. Yes, surely was a systems thinker. True. Let me just. This is more difficult than I thought. I thought this would be easier, but of course it isn't. I mean, maybe I do this in a stupid way. Moving on. We have these two photos. Okay, let's move on.
All right. So we might take this off the stage.
They're not here. What?
Would you like me to take the pictures off? There we go. Goodbye pictures. All right. That's okay. We'll come back to that maybe in the next time. So,
no, I need to show them. Let's give it another try.
Okay, we'll give it another shot.
Another try. I'm convinced that we can do it. Okay. We can do it if we really want.
You can do it. You can do it.
So now we see the color photo?
Not yet.
What the heck? I shared the wrong picture, the wrong thing. Okay. Interesting. That's totally wrong. This is very difficult. Why is it so difficult?
I don't know. I don't know if this is a StreamYard thing or a Mac thing. Not sure.
Didn't work. Man, that's frustrating. I just wanted to show a few photos.
Well, we do have one photo here in the article.
Yes, you can show that for the time being. Exactly. Please do so.
Very smiley Douglas McGregor. Do we have any other pictures in here? No, I think that's the only one we have. So
wait, come on. This is boring.
All right.
Yes, I think the book, the photos help to somehow understand McGregor better. That's why I'm insisting on doing this. Right? It's not for the sake of stupidity or boredom, much the contrary. I'm just not sure why this is so difficult. Yeah, I cannot do it. Okay, I will show them next time. Next time we talk about Douglas.
Well, this is for the next white paper, right?
Yes. I wanted to share, but there's something off. There are lovely photos. One, for example, at the dinner table, McGregor with a colleague of his, a sociologist. I don't remember his name now, and his wife, who looks like a movie star, and they sit around the table and have there's still food on the table. So you see McGregor in social situations. There's one at an MIT festive occasion, yeah, like a social dinner where Douglas McGregor is chatting with another guest and so on. So there are great photos available, and we'll share them another time. I've prepared them better.
Sure, and that was the style too. I think part of again, what you're alluding to with smoking with a student or whatever. He was very casual.
They all smoked at the time.
That was the time. But the point I would make is that he was very casual in his manner of being. When he would have his feet up on the desk when he was teaching, and his idea of participative, integrated learning was again, that's not something that's usually mentioned when we talk about McGregor. The other thing that I found from the book was this thing called the Scanlon Plan. Was that he was that it was related to compensation, and that we talk in relative targets. We talk about in the principles of the BetaCodex around participative, group-oriented performance and compensation, and that if an individual is going to be rewarded, then that's very unusual, and that this was, I would say, even at that, well, now it's not common practice, and this is why maybe we're considered to be on the fringe about that. But this Scanlon Plan this is also something that's articulated in the book. It was a contribution of McGregor to the BetaCodex Network, and hopefully we will bring it farther into the universe outside of our little solar system. What else would you like to say and bring in here about McGregor before I have another thing to add? But
yeah, I think what you just described, you described pieces of it, right? What we have to remember is that he lived until 1966 or so in a time when America went sideways in many ways. And he had a modern stance at teaching, at doing science. He was a very humanistic and systemic thinker, which certainly wasn't mainstream. But he connected vigorously with people and also with companies. That's why I also wanted to show you the photos, because they show him, talking with executives in a very relaxed way. They're not presenting to people or apparently talking down, but really engaging in conversation, which was very unusual at the time in teaching. So yes,
he was not the proverbial sage on the stage kind of teacher.
No, I suppose that he talked very freely, and that he must have been a very engaging character. Again, the photos will show you more. I will share them elsewhere. Which made him an extraordinary person. And of course, that he didn't go against the grain totally, because otherwise he wouldn't have been president of Antioch College. He wasn't just a dean. I said before that he was a dean, but he was president of that college. So he must have been capable of, connecting and, having reputation, to be put in charge at that institution.
Which again was a very forward-thinking kind of place, and not again out of the mainstream.
It was probably Antioch was a progressive place, right? And they were probably looking for that kind of figure.
Sure.
Him. Yes.
The other thing that came to mind and was from my wandering through the book, and this also is a connection to Follett, is that McGregor had a very deep belief in the organized labor movement, and then he was a proponent of this. I hate to say empowerment, but the recognition of the power of the group, of collective bargaining, and that the relationship between labor and management could be approached from a theory Y point of view, and that there would be a lot more collaboration in that relationship. And it unfortunately has not turned out that way here in the US, that the dissolution of, or maybe not dissolution, but the lack of influence among the working class here in the U.S. as I mean, the labor movement, organized labor, is not a very strong constituency here, and I'm not sure. I don't think that's the case in Europe, but I'd defer to you on your view of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're repeating the same thing that we already said, right? Instead of listening to McGregor and taking to heart what he figured out, he and others like Herzberg, Maslow, and so on, we have stalled.
Well, maybe I didn't state my point rather properly. It was about that it was a belief in organized labor, and that has been not even necessarily about a misunderstanding of McGregor. I think that was an environmental thing that happened here, and I'm positing, and that's what I'm asking you about, is that in Germany specifically, what is the strength of the labor movement? Might that be possibly related to a more theory-wide belief about people? I don't know. And if you don't, it's not your thing, cool, we can move on from there. But that was my curiosity.
Okay. And not sure if you know, but in Germany, the labor representatives have even way more formal power in organizations than in any other country, I think, probably. So labor representatives, not necessarily, we're not talking about unions, but they might be unionized, but labor representatives have enormous power in organizations in Germany. And it's formal power, actually. So it's like co-governance of organizations that we have here installed by law in Germany. And it has been serious advancement. It has also had its sides, of course, but there's no, I think, disdain for unions and labor representatives. It exists, but it's fringe opinion, so to speak. In America, of course, things are very different. In Japan, for example, things are different again. However, of course, I think we wouldn't even have any need for humans if we had listened to McGregor and had taken consequences out of his teaching. That's what I meant. Had we listened to McGregor, had management overcome command and control, or had managers overcome management, the social sciences, the social theory overcome belief in command and control, as McGregor suggested, probably unions wouldn't be needed, wouldn't exist, or they would have a very different role by now. But none of that happens. So we are dumb. We haven't gone to Star Trek level because we haven't listened.
We have a few more centuries left before
McGregor is personally and academically being discredited as we speak. Thousands of business school teachers and others talk silly nonsense about McGregor and try to discredit him, out of sheer ignorance or evil intent. Usually sheer ignorance, because again, hardly nobody has ever touched McGregor's book, of that generation of teachers. Maybe previous generations of business school teachers read McGregor, didn't understand it, and they were too stupid, and they the writers of textbooks, they completely dumbed down the message so much that it's irrecognizable, that it's wrong, really, turned wrong. So our reality is that there is a fight against insight. Instead we talk about insight. A fight against insight and progress. Yes.
When we talk about AI, you're talking about that. What's the relationship?
We talk about evasive stuff, ludicrous thing, AI leadership, and whatever we talk about technology as a savior. Instead, we are the saviors, as McGregor would say. But we have the human resource, to use this in a different way. The human resource is not the problem. We do not need tech to solve our problems. We just need to overcome command and control. We need to overcome theory X thinking. Then we can overcome command and control. Then we can overcome the unions managers dichotomy or conflict. We can overcome most of the distress and suffering in organizations. Yeah, but we haven't done it. Yes.
and this is the I'm thinking of a scene from one of the, I don't know if it was from the Star Wars prequels, is when Darth Vader realizes that his beloved is dead. He goes, why?
Yes.
Maybe that's what we.
I will throw myself in a volcano and then turn utterly evil. Yes.
Turn utterly evil, but I mean that's partially what we do here. Is I think is saying why is this, and to
No,
say
I'm not
that
saying this. I'm saying it's stupidity, ignorance, lack of interest, lack of seriousness, and the stupidity of business. Of course, economic interest, self-interest at business schools as well, and in textbook writers who are
selling textbooks.
That's what Todd Bridgman told us about many episodes back, right? We discussed the one of the misunderstandings about change as one of the Levine misunderstandings.
Planned change.
Yeah, the misunderstanding about planned change, and that supposedly Levine invented the
freeze, unfreeze, freeze kind of thing.
Freeze, change, refreeze approach, which he didn't. So all these misunderstandings, the laziness, the intellectual laziness of the business sciences and management sciences people, they are, and the teachers, and the intellectual laziness of everybody in management, really. Every manager should read this book. And everybody else too, right? Everybody should read this book
who endeavors to be.
Conclude, oh my God, we do not need incentives. We do not need budgeting. We do not need, because it's all geared towards people who do not, so stupid that they do not even exist.
Who believe that people deserve to be and want to be controlled, because people don't want to make decisions, and people don't want to take responsibility. So
people stubbornly insist on their prejudice.
You people are not good enough. You're not smart enough to make decisions for yourself. So therefore, you need a budget to tell you how much money you get, and me, wise managers, to say how much money is in that budget, and that thou shalt be controlled by me, because I'm wise and I know more. I do the thinking. You don't have to think because you don't want to, which is a set of beliefs about human beings that is abhorrent, shall we say. So, there was something else that was bubbling up about McGregor that I'm not sure. I lost because we're riffing on there. What else do you want to say about McGregor before we do our shameless plugging of Substack?
I think we should do some more research on him, right? Publish a little bit more about him.
I know what I was going to say. You're thinking, so I'm going to step in. That this is the Maslow thing, that he was very associated with Maslow, and this gets back to the videos I watch, because in the videos they're talking about Theory X managers and the hierarchy of needs. That there was never a hierarchy, and we talked about this with Todd Bridgman, that this is a fringe view, that everyone who talks about Maslow talks about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it was never stated that way. So maybe this is part of the getting rid of the paradox. How does the paradox get solved? You inform folks, I guess.
Yes, what I think it matters about the Herzberg, Maslow, McGregor trinity is to understand that their three approaches are approaches to the same thing. They're all looking at the same things. Herzberg saying money doesn't motivate. There is no money as motivating thing. Maslow saying, okay, we have fundamental needs that we want to satisfy, and we are we are all daring to fulfill our needs, which are intrinsic. And McGregor saying everybody is intrinsically motivated, and what keeps us from accepting this is our belief in that other silly notion that people need to be motivated. It's all the same thing, right? Which is why McGregor admired Maslow's work so much, and which is why then Maslow, upon learning more about Theory X and Theory Y, admired McGregor's work as well, right? I'm not quite sure about what kind of contact the three had with, or the two had with Herzberg, but they were all basically saying the same things. And of course, those three are saying the same thing that people like the Austrian Viktor Frankl said about human motivation as well. So all these psychologists like Maslow, sociologists in a way like McGregor and Herzberg, or psychoanalysts like Viktor Frankl, they are all saying basically the same thing.
Philosophers like Peter Kestenbaum.
And philosophers like Peter Kostenbaum, exactly, or social philosophers of this time like Peter Block, they are all saying the same thing. There is no disagreement scientifically whatsoever about the nature of human motivation or about human nature at work. There is no disagreement. The only problem is that the theory X prejudice, it doesn't magically end. It needs to be exorcised out of people, individually, one by one. Once people come to think that theory X is a thing, that theory X people exist, they need to be exorcised, which is all this pea soup spitting. So Mills,
the exorcist, the Linda Blair. So Linda Blair is the
so millions and millions of people need to be exorcised of their lazy theory X beliefs. Science is not the problem. We know everything about motivation, and you do not need to slice human brains or analyze the functioning of the human brain to understand human motivation. We have the science, plenty of science around it. So the real problem is practice. Practice has like built up a wall towards science, and practitioners like Dan Pink even don't get it right because he's not a scientist, he's more of a journalist, so he doesn't get things right about motivation either. But in principle, there is no lack of understanding of human nature at work. The problem is that while in academia everything is clear, or in science everything is clear, the teaching is wrong, and this theory X
it's a misunderstanding of theory. It's a misunderstanding of theory leading to bad
ignorance of theory, ignoring theory. It's disdain for theory. That's the problem. I think it's because one problem of McGregor, one mistake of McGregor's was maybe to call it theory X and theory Y, and people didn't understand it, and still do not understand that it's really theory, but it shouldn't have been called like that. People resist it because it's theory. Ask Donald Trump about theory X, theory Y, he'll say, no.
Yeah. Oh gosh. The other thing I want to, again, this is about, we talk about a lot of the thinkers, the practitioners, the consultants, that there's this connection between theory and practice of those who are standing up for the belief in human dignity and this theory Y belief set. And when we talked about practice and theory, another name comes up is Sumatra Ghoshal. We're talking about that how that, and maybe it's less of a talking about theory, and it's more about bad management practice. And again, it ties in very nicely to what we're talking about here, is that there's a theme to McGregor's work, and McGregor has had a huge influence on those folks that you and I admire, and as the pioneers of BetaCodex. So.
Yeah, he is the spider in the web of beta as well, because his theory is the core, the key to understanding beta and understanding a good chunk of the evils and wrongs of alpha organizations and command and control. Yeah. By the way, I might also remind people that what makes McGregor so powerful, I think, is that he wasn't just an academic and a teacher. He also consulted with companies, and very well, according to Marvin Weisbord. And I think Andrea
Gabor,
in her book, the
Capitalist Philosopher.
The Capitalist Philosophers. If you have it, hold it up, please. Yes, she also writes very competently about Douglas McGregor. Yes, brilliant book by Andrea Gabor. Why haven't we never talked to Andrea Gabor about her book?
We haven't reached out to her yet. I think in this current season of the BetaCodex Live Pantheon, we could reach out to her. We've got
one thing that's so interesting, I think, about McGregor is that he consulted to companies in oil industries, especially. I think, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, and
chemical industry.
Chemicals, yes, but maybe food. Wasn't he part of this food plant thing?
Not the Kraft thing, was he?
The dog food plant?
Purina? Maybe.
No.
I forget. I'm just throwing guesses out there now.
I think it was a Procter and Gamble dog food plant, and he got pretty far with beta there.
Oh, okay, so that's...
Was it him? So again, he consulted to organizations, saw how it worked. He got a pretty good idea of how to turn these beta ideas into practice, and that's, I think, why he was so self-assured in his. He wasn't just academically hunching things. He put things to work, and he was connected again with these other people like Eric Twist, who also did research, who also looked into practice. So McGregor, in my mind, he's very close to Deming in rigor of thinking, and also the daring to consult stance, which I recently wrote about in another article comparing Jocker and Deming. So Deming consulted and he taught managers how to turn these things a reality, and McGregor did so as well, which I think he had an enormous range of capabilities. And again, he was a manager at a college as well, a top manager and executive, president of Antioch for a couple of years. So very interesting figure. I think we should go back at a certain point, talk more about him, do some research. So if you out there are interested in doing some research, BetaCodex related research on McGregor, please let me know. I would love to collaborate.
It would be nice. And again, thinking about this here, we're leaving the invitation out to maybe draw the web. If as we are saying, we're making an assertion about McGregor being the spider in the web. Well, let's draw that web. Who is in that web, and what are the connections?
That would be interesting. His real connections in the web. So
those of you out there who are watching, you are welcome to create, and we will be happy to amplify and have you folks, practitioners, here as guests in our humble little studio.
Of the BetaCodex heroes could be very interesting to watch, look at, right?
Very
interesting. Great.
Well, so we are at 70 minutes, just about. That in the shameless plugs that I will put out here. One being your Substack, particularly the Red 42 Substack, that for you.
Let me talk a little bit about it, because that's not commercial, so it's not really shameless. It's really an extension of this conversation. As social media is in decline, in free fall, one might say, we're looking for other ways to publish the content in a decent way, because that cannot be done anymore apparently on LinkedIn and other platforms. So, or at least it's becoming more and more difficult. So we chose the platform Substack you can blend that in. So in Substack, you can subscribe to this specific Substack, which is like a web magazine, a web journal. We are publishing new articles. This is the BetaCodex one. So there's a BetaCodex Substack, which is called News from the Beta World. You see it here. Interesting visual, by the way. It's a little different from what I see. Interesting. Yes, there are like on Twitter, there are posts like that. There we share resources. I started a little video blog, with book recommendations. So there are different sections, as you can see. Authentic videos are being uploaded. We are just starting this, which is why these sections are not crowded or full yet. But News from the Beta World is a platform of the BetaCodex Network. Stay informed. If you want to stay informed about BetaCodex stuff, it's good to subscribe here. It's free of charge and will remain so forever, I suppose. So, and the other Substack is this one, also free of charge. It's called Transforming Organizations for Good Fast. And, it's the Red 42 presence. You're also part of Red 42. Ryan Silke is part of it. I'm part of it. So far, I have done most all of the posting, but we will probably take this into another place at a certain point. So here also you get fresh articles, these little notes, stuff about publications and so on. So there's a huge amount of resources. The latest I took the decision for me to publish my articles there on this platform and all other platforms. I will refer to it. This is a news article for Get Generalists, which is new and was published today. So take a look, subscribe. This is the best way to stay updated because you get email newsletters once. You get this article, for example, if you were subscribed, you got it to your mailbox, which is very convenient, much better than getting stuck somewhere.
And LinkedIn, who knows what you're going to get when you're going to get it. But hey, we're broadcasting on LinkedIn Live. Who knows? Maybe you're watching. I hope you are. We'll be sharing
this. LinkedIn recovers at a certain point. We would love to see that happening, but yeah, so far we think that Substack is a good bet, for the future. And again, it has this advantage that new articles are being shared through email newsletters, so it's very convenient. You also have a Substack, Ryan?
I do. It's about my mysterious upcoming book, Music of Work. And again, you can get to me as my profile there, sounds like Ryan, and that will lead you to my association with News of the Beta World that we partner with, and we'll have generalized beta content. The Music of Work blog that I do on Substack will be, as someone has consulted me, not an event management or event announcement platform, but it will be more about our thoughts and writings and my thoughts and writings about doing the right work.
About Substack, really, I think that it's about content and content sharing, not about news. It's not a Twitter thing. It has these capabilities. You can post these so-called notes that are tweet-like. Yeah. But the foundation of Substack is sharing of articles and also podcasting, video podcasting. So we're getting started with it. I think it will be an interesting journey. It's certainly a beautiful platform to visit and to use. The articles look beautiful. It's very media-like, very unnoisy, let's say, and not polluted by advertisements. So it's a very nice way of. Very. It's a hope. A little bit of hope for social media.
A ray of hope for social
so
media.
Please sign up. Please subscribe to this. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a shameless.
That was a shameless plug, and it's tongue in cheek as it is shameless. I don't have any thing yet. I mean, there's some offing. I'm dancing with one of our other contributors before here that maybe he will come back, Mr. Art Kleiner.
Okay.
See this art.
Yes.
Reply to my email, please. Maybe an episode on Kurt Levine, and one of my friends, Gil Crosby, as we've talked about a little bit, he's written a bit about Kurt Levine. Maybe we can come up with an angle about that works. Again, we are open to topics in the Betaverse. The forget generalists thing, I want to go into that particularly because I have heard a bit. I have some beliefs about that maybe you can disabuse me of, and maybe I can speak to some kind of general capability. What are we talking about?
I'm willing to
save me. I'm dependent. All right. Okay, folks. So I will
still save you. You do not have to become an apostle.
Okay.
Apostle Ryan.
Well, I think we'll on Apostle Ryan, and I don't know how you would label yourself there.
Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. Niels, Jesus. Thank you, everybody, for the precious gift of
Jesus.
Your
I said Jesus.
She's like grilled cheeses, like a grilled cheese sandwich.
Not Jesus. What do you think? Jesus. Call me Jesus.
Brie, Roquefort, and all
exactly.
That kind of stuff. All right, so see y'all later. Bye. Ending stream now. Boop.